Hi, it's Mayor Walter Sendzik, and I want to welcome you back to our home of Mayor Sendzik. It has been a while. Last time we were on the air would have been March, and that was just around the time where the stay-at-home order was issued by the province of Ontario as we faced yet a third wave of COVID-19 here in not just our community, but across the country. And it has been a difficult 3 months. There has been a lot that has gone on in terms of the pressure on our healthcare system. The people that have been impacted by COVID-19, we've had additional deaths that have taken place due to COVID-19. And so I first want to say our thoughts and prayers with those who have been affected by COVID-19. In addition, it has challenged our economy. It has challenged the people in our community who have been forced to shut their business. And that's hard for a lot of people because that's their livelihood. And it has been a stress for students and families. Our healthcare system was overwhelmed, and you saw the increased pressures as more people presented with COVID to the hospital that then ended up in the ICU and intensive care unit. And so that put an additional pressure on those who have been on the front lines of COVID-19 for the better part of the last 16 months. So this has created a lot of stress in our community. And as we enter now into step one of the reopening of our economy, we're doing so because of a very critical piece of this complex puzzle. And the piece is vaccinations. And we're seeing an increase in vaccinations here in Niagara. We're well over 60%, on our way to 70% and higher. Other jurisdictions around us, I know Guelph is at 75%, coming up to 75%. I know we're going to surpass that. And that's the first dose. On the second dose, we're heading towards 7-8%, and it's all about supply coming into our community. As we get more supply, you'll see that second dose percentage increase quickly. And it's being done because Niagara Health, which is our hospital system, and public health are on the front line of getting the vaccine into the arms. I've got the vaccine, and all of my friends have gotten the vaccine, my kids have gotten it, my families have gotten it, and we got it because it's not about us as individuals, it's about us as a community, and it's about protecting one another. So if you haven't gotten your vaccine yet, I encourage you to get it. It's safe. We can listen to the medical advice that we're hearing, and the medical advice is based on solid evidence. And so if there's any hesitancy, reach out to your physician. Reach out to someone in public health or at the hospital system. There are enough resources in our community to learn about vaccines. We are beyond what is the high point of the third wave, and we're now on our downward trajectory that is about getting much more of a control of the virus, but at the same time allowing the economy to open. So as we head into step one, and that means the patios are open, thankfully. Please get out and enjoy the restaurants. They have been waiting. And the retailers, the small retailers that were forced to close, they are open with limited capacity. And I know there's a list of things that I need to get for around my house that I can't wait to get out to the small retailers to be able to get to that to-do list. And so I'm going to ask people to have patience, and patience for the servers who have not been working since March. So they're under a considerable amount of stress. For the restaurant owners, check out Love STC, which is a great website that has all the information about what restaurants and businesses have to offer. We live in an amazing community, folks, and we are where we are today because you made a difference. You decided to be a part of the change. You decided to be a part of the efforts, and because of that, we are where we are today. So I just want to say a heartfelt thank you on behalf of the City of St. Catharines. We've got special guests here today talking about two different aspects of what's going on in our community and around the world, specifically with our first guest. Our first guest is Olivia Groff, and she is the Climate Change Coordinator for the City of St. Catharines. And she's going to be talking about the Climate Change Adaptation Plan here at the City of St. Catharines that we just recently approved by Council. Following that, we'll have members of the BIA, the Downtown Business Industry Association, the Downtown Association as we call it, and Tisha and Rachel will be talking about what the downtown is going to look like as recovery starts to take hold here in our community. First off, Olivia, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
It has been a while. So Olivia first came onto the show when we were talking about her position as climate change coordinator, and it was a position that we had created at the City of St. Catharines, and it was about creating an opportunity for someone with a understanding of environmental matters who can work at the City of St. Catharines and really start to shine a lens on the environmental side of what we do as a corporation. You know, we're a $122 million corporation in terms of our operating budget. We have a significant capital budget. We have a lot of infrastructure that touches on environmental matters. Pretty much all of our infrastructure touches on environmental matters, but the missing piece was having that coordinator that was trying to pull together the corporation in a way that put a green lens on what we do. And you are a graduate of Guelph University, and you have a science and environmental management background. You've been in this space for the last 5 years. You're coming up on 2 years at the City of St. Catharines in your role. And one of your greatest achievements, I think, to date, and I'm being selfish because it affects the City of St. Catharines, has been your climate adaptation plan. So first of all, tell us, what is a climate adaptation plan and how does it tie into the larger piece about climate change policy development?
Yeah. So a climate adaptation plan is really centered on preparing the city for the impacts of climate change. It's kind of giving that forward-looking thing of what's to happen, understanding the climate impacts, and making sure that we have the best possible measures in place to make sure we're prepared and we can minimize or prevent those impacts from happening. So things like looking at making sure that if we know the climate projections are pointing to hotter summers, that we have measures in place. If we're going to receive more rain and have more flooding, what's the best measures to put in place? Extreme events, even having all those things to consider really makes a city better prepared for everything. And even in terms, there's information out there that says for every $1 invested in pre-disaster adaptation activities, actually $6 can be saved in post-disaster recovery spending. So it also makes sense financially, and especially as a city with all the infrastructure that it has and is in control of, we have to make sure we're thinking about that.
So and it's interesting because some people may say, well, climate change really doesn't have an impact on St. Catharines. I don't see it. It's climate change, or the climate issues are sort of more global. It's not really affecting St. Catharines. What are just a couple quick concrete things that your research has shown that no, climate change is real here in the city of St. Catharines?
Yeah. So if we look at extreme events, think how many we've kind of had and how long they're even becoming now. It's not just a small heat wave, it's lasting now a couple days. Even in terms of how we're receiving rain, we're having large rainfalls that's overwhelming sometimes city infrastructure. So really making sure that we're taking those and looking at those can really help. And even looking at our beaches, we had high Lake Ontario water levels, and the city of St. Catharines was the one out there putting sandbags around the carousel, for example. So those are all things that may not seem large, but in reality that they are, and it is impacting St. Catharines.
Well, it's interesting because the research, based on what I was able to read from the report that you had provided, in addition to the high water levels of Lake Ontario, we had the flash floods that took place in the north end of St. Catharines 3 years ago, where we had the most rainfall in a 45-minute period of time on record, which flooded over 500 basements. We've had the freeze, that we had a deep freeze that took place, I think, 4 years ago, where our frost line went below 4.5 feet. And people would say, well, what does that do? And that affects the water mains. Yep. And so we had something like 400 water mains breaking, because the frost was now at where the water mains have been placed. And so the climate adaptation plan looks at things like infrastructure and go, do we now have to put our infrastructure deeper into the ground if the frost line is going to change, even if it changes every 5 years, meaning it goes deeper every 5 years, the cost to the city on that kind of environmental shift is costly, you know. And in terms of when we think about plans, because you did a great presentation to the City of St. Catharines, some people come back and go, great plan, but what are the targets? So can you talk about what sort of metrics you're using or some things that come out of it where you can say, here's how we're going to pinpoint what we're doing on the adaptation side?
Yeah. So we're going to be working a little bit more closely with each individual department. There are actions that are specifically kind of assigned to all the various departments within the city. It isn't just an infrastructure, it's a services and programming as well for something like cooling centers even. So really tracking how many people are using the cooling centers. Is there enough capacity? Do we have enough community centers that can act as the cooling centers? Are they even in the right spot, or are they targeting those groups that don't have air conditioning?
So what's a cooling center? So for someone who may look and go, is a cooling center just a space that you open up once in a while? But explain what that would be for the City of St. Catharines.
Yeah, so the City of St. Catharines operates their cooling centers very much just to extend the hours to make sure people have the resources to cool off. They can even be looked at something like providing services that will help people with relief. So the urban forestry management plan even kind of plays into that heat relief kind of component as well. But the cooling centers are very much a part of making sure that there is air conditioning available, that there's enough space within the building, that there's even other activities to do while you're there. The library is a great one, the Kiwanis Center as well. It has a pool, it has just a meeting area as well as the library and resources that way.
Right, and so from your perspective, so you're the next generation of leaders in our community who have shown a heightened increase in environmental manners. How is your position, from your vantage point, how is the city doing when it comes to pushing back at climate change?
Well, there's definitely community support. We've seen that. We had a couple climate strikes happen in St. Catharines kind of pre-COVID, and even the community support through the surveys that we had online to inform the adaptation plan was overwhelming. There was great support. People were really getting it. And to kind of just keep that momentum going is really just centered on keeping that conversation alive, making sure we're talking about it, making sure it's being promoted, and really understanding that the city is taking action on it, and making sure the city's involved and the community's involved with that communication as well.
That's what I've seen from your report. Unanimously supported at City Council. Senior staff have very much supported it, obviously, because they were instrumental in putting it together with you. And I just want to say, again, on behalf of the city and council, your work has not gone unnoticed, and the work that you have been able to provide is informing us as a community where we're going when it comes to climate adaptation, but also more importantly, how we can push back at climate change. And the plan that, again, you've provided is leading not just our city, but it's one of the first plans in Niagara. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that here at the City of St. Catharines, we are developing climate action plans that are leading the region in terms of its abilities, our abilities, to be able to show our community how we all need to fight to push back at climate change. So Olivia, you're doing an outstanding job. I hope your career continues to take you within the City of St. Catharines into a broader climate space so that we can benefit from your expertise and knowledge. And I'm sure I'll have you back on the show where you'll be talking about more concrete examples of maybe what the community can do to help us as a corporation, City of St. Catharines, address climate change. So I want to thank you. After the break, we're going to have two people from the Downtown Association. So one who has been there for a long time and one who is bringing a new, fresh vision to the Downtown Association. And it's going to be great because when we think about the summer and what's in front of us, patio season is going to be the place to be. And one of the hottest places you're going to want to be is downtown St. Catharines. So you don't want to miss, right after the break, what's coming up. Hi, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. We've gone from climate change, talking about climate adaptation here in the City of St. Catharines, to the changes that are taking place in downtown St. Catharines. We have two guests joining us from the Downtown Association. Trish Polacco, who has been on the show many times before, And Trish Polacco is the longtime executive director of the Downtown Association, and she has been with the Downtown Association for, I believe, over 20 years.
21 years.
21 years, Downtown Association, and she is set to retire and to hang up the Downtown Association key and pass it over to someone who has been recently hired by the Downtown Association, Rachel Braithwaite. You come from Hamilton, the big Hammertown, and we're going to talk more about your experience and what you did in Hamilton. But first, Tish, I just want to say on behalf of the City of St. Catharines, thank you for your dedication to our downtown community. When you look at your 20 years experience and really leading through some challenging times, like the downtown 20 years ago was much different than it is today.
Totally, yeah.
What is one highlight you want to point to? And I know you've got a whole bunch, but in terms of where we are today, what was the catalytic moment that brought us to where we are today?
You know what, it was just, I always say it was many pieces of the puzzle, but just taking that step and allowing to go back to two-way traffic was the beginning of that amazing transformation, believe it or not.
Thank you for saying that, because I know you were a big supporter of that, and there was such a resistance on city council and staff to embrace that concept, and people said, what difference will that make? And it's not about one small thing making a difference, but it acted as that one piece that started the ball rolling, if you will. And you know, you've brought a lot of different unique ideas into the downtown, from the car shows to the ghost walks. You've brought in the beer market that took place at Market Square. You've brought a number of different marketing initiatives, and also
our unique banners. The
banners. Ultimately, what is the role of the BIA? As a retiring executive director, what is the role of the BIA?
So our BIA is there to market and promote our downtown core, and we're there to advocate for our property owners, that they're the ones that actually fund the business improvement area, so it's their area. We want to do the best we can to help them to show that it is this vibrant area.
And in terms of the last 20 years, as you move forward into the next chapter of your life, what is it that you want people to remember when they think about downtown St. Catharines today? What is one thing that you want them to remember and be proud about?
How resilient are the people that make up our downtown and our property owners are, because I think that is the main framework. And I feel that the pandemic has really shown that, that people are not willing to give up. They're going to keep struggling, and they're going to keep working to, and currently make sure that our downtown gets back to where it was.
That really did show tremendous amount of leadership, and you should be credited for that, because often it's the people who are doing the heavy lifting that don't actually get the acknowledgments. And so our downtown is a better place because of your contributions, and I want you to know that from the City of St. Catharines. Rachel, you know, you've got some shoes to fill.
I have big shoes. But
you come from Hamilton, and you know, Hamilton is an industrial town, and it's got quite the reputation as that grittiness, that grittiness that has come about because it's a steel city. Tell us a bit about why you were attracted to the downtown St. Catharines job, and what are some similarities that you can bring between the two areas?
Absolutely. So, you know, with Barton, there's leading from what Tisha was saying, the resiliency, right? And even just, you know, this is my 4th day on the job, and I have been blown away by the passionate and engaged and resilient business owners in downtown St. Catharines. And that mirrors Barton Street, because, you know, Barton has that negative reputation, or did, and the business owners have been completely resilient through it all. They've really embraced the community, and they're there to better the community, right? They're not there just to make sure they've got a big number at the bottom of their balance book every week. And they're there to improve that community. And I really feel that mirrors downtown St. Catharines businesses. You can tell. I mean, like I said, my short time at the job, I can clearly tell, and I'm so impressed by how much our businesses care not just about their business, but about improving this community and making it better. And, you know, how do we get bike lanes, and how do we make this safer, and how do we do this? And I, like I said, I've been really impressed with how engaged and passionate they are about those things.
Well, you have done an outstanding job on Barton Street, and when the economy opens up and people are allowed to travel more, I encourage people to head out to Barton Street, not because I want you to leave our community, but to go and see what other communities are doing when it comes to revitalization of areas. And that's a great example of a community in transition. And we have communities in St. Catharines and Niagara that are going through that transition. And I do believe the investments that have been made by the City of St. Catharines over the last 10 plus years, from the Meridian Centre, the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre, to the streetscaping on St. Paul Street, there has been so much. And you know what some people forget is 2 years ago, Tish, and I remember you and I are talking about this, at the intersection of the five corners, I call it, of Geneva, St. Paul, Queenston, and Niagara, for almost 2 years, there was a significant amount of construction that took place. So now we've bookended St. Paul Street, and there's some people in the downtown area that say that we're not spending enough. We haven't spent enough money on that part of St. Paul Street. What they failed to see is that there was actually a significant investment that was made as an entrance point now to that end of the street that'll allow for the city to continue to invest and move down towards the Performing Arts Center, which I'm looking forward to. And what can we look forward to in the downtown?
So we learned from what we did last year. This year we're upping the game for sure. A lot of patios, of course, starting today. A number of our restaurants are ready to go. Some aren't, but they will be by next weekend. We'll be closing down St. Paul Street starting next Friday. Fridays and Saturdays from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We'll be extending that, including James Street as well. So at St. Paul, it'll go from William Street all the way to Carlisle, and then another section from Bond to Court, and then all of James Street. And we're actually adding as well, James Street is also going to have their sidewalks widened permanently for the summertime, starting next week with lovely planters. And it's definitely going to add, and it's going to be the place where people are going to want to go to dine, just be able to maybe sit and wave to their friends and enjoy.
Just to get outside.
Exactly.
And I got to say, last year was a success. There are some people who are detractors who, no matter what you do, they're going to say it wasn't nothing successful. The reality is that you were in such a new environment, you and the businesses downtown.
Exactly.
And they showcased to the community what could be. And what we learned from last year is that creating more pedestrian space, more space for people to gather, is a good thing. And what I like about what you've done this year is you've modified the street closures that will allow people to move around and create different animated spaces. And that's an important part of it. Now, you're taking away parking spaces out front of businesses.
Yep.
So where can people always say this? Well, where do I park then? Well, we've got 2 parking garages.
We've got parking garages. There's ample parking, and I think perfect example of that is prior to the pandemic. You figure we have 7 venue spaces in downtown St. Catharines. There was times where all 7 venues were being used at the same time. There were no issues with parking. Right. People found places to park and were able to get to where they wanted to go. So that is definitely not an issue at all.
We've got a bus system, folks.
Exactly.
And the bus terminal is located downtown St. Catharines.
That's right.
And I want to get more people to get on the bus. If you're thinking about coming downtown and you want to hit the patios, take a bus. Touch on some of the other businesses that sometimes get overlooked with the sort of buy local or we're going to support local. What are you doing for, and who are they in the downtown?
So we have some wonderful retailers, definitely downtown, and a lot of them have stepped up. We have an online market. Even if you go to our website, you can see who you can shop. So people that may be still not comfortable to physically going in, they can still support local by going online, getting their products. You know, our Win This Space winner, their wonderful little bookstore, Someday Books, has done quite well throughout the pandemic. We have, you know, a vinyl record store. Ruby Red Beautiful, one of our runner-ups. So, you know, and we have a a few other places that have actually opened during the pandemic. So, you know, like I said, resilient people in our downtown.
From resilience to recovery.
It is. And I also should mention the salons, because I think they're the one that has really been impacted the most through COVID, with the longest closing. So they're definitely chomping at the bit to be able to reopen and serve their customers, because there's also that relationship that you have at those places that is very strong, right? So they're very excited to have their customers back.
Yeah, and it's been a struggle for a lot of those professional services here in our community.
Absolutely.
And the sooner we go from, like, we got to go from step 1 to step 2, and it shows that if you're vaccinated, you get your vaccine, we get the second dose, we get those increases, we'll be able to open up our economy for good. It's coming. And this summer, you're going to get a glimpse of it.
Exactly.
And you're going to get the Performing Arts Center hopefully doing outdoor
Absolutely.
theater, outdoor music. And if I'm going to leave you with this, Rachel, put you on the spot. What's one thing that you hope to achieve early on as executive director of the BIA in St. Catharines?
One thing? That's a hard one. I have lots of things, lots of dreams.
What's the first thing?
Collaboration, I would say. So it's, you know, building those networks and those collaborations. I'm a big believer in we're stronger together. And I see that firsthand in St. Catharines. There's such a strong arts community, and also so many other very creative communities that I would love to work with, as Tisha has in the past. And really it's about promoting them and highlighting all of these amazing assets that we've got downtown, right? And bringing them and showcasing them.
Wonderfully said. Tisha, thank you very much for everything you've done for our community, and best wishes heading into the next chapter. Rachel, good luck.
Thank you.
As you come into the executive director's role, I know you'll do an amazing job. Looking forward to getting to know you.
Likewise. 4
days into the position, and you're on our home of Mayor Sendzik. I think that's a record. That is a record. And I also want to say thank you to your board. Your chair, Robin McPherson, is doing an outstanding job. So you've got a good crew around you. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in. It has been a great show. We've learned about what the city's doing on climate adaptation. We were learning about resilience to recovery and what our downtown is going to look like as we head into the summer. I want to see you downtown. I want to see you in Port Dalhousie. I want to see you in Meriton. I want to see you in Western Hill. Wherever they have patios, wherever they have small businesses, please make an effort to get out there. Get out and enjoy yourself. Be safe. Follow the precautions that you need to follow. Do it in a safe way, but have a great time. So until next time, until September, have a great summer.